Someone once said, you can make a bad movie out of a good script, but it is impossible to make a good movie from a bad script. And so today, I want to talk to you guys about my top 5 favorite screenwriters, and then which one of their scripts is my personal favorite. Before we get too far into this video, I want to give a massive shout out to the sponsor of today's video, Arc Studio Pro, who we'll talk about more in a little bit. I also noticed while filming this video that each of these are writer-director pairs, and I think that's just because each of these writers we're going to talk about today has such a specific voice and style. It's almost impossible to imagine someone else perfectly executing on their vision with their same voice, but it's happened, and we'll see that amongst this list today. The bottom of my list, we're going to start at number 5, with Greta Gerwig. She's kind of been the pedestal, I would say, of like female writer-director duos. There's good reason to be obsessed with her screenplays. I feel like Greta Gerwig can really capture the coming of age story of a young girl in a way that highlights both the really mundane as well as like the very dramatic and potentially tragic moments. I also think this is where the writer-director aspect of Greta Gerwig comes to play, because if you've heard anything about the writing of Little Women, she had in her script something that was very kind of controversial. A lot of like screenplay format stuff is very controversial, especially if you're trying to deviate from it in any way. But Greta Gerwig wrote Little Women with two different font colors. So there's one color which is the typical black and white for the present day storyline that Joe and or Louisa May Alcott, whatever you want to call that, is living, and then there's like the past storyline which she would use red color for, and that was a great indication of how she wanted to visually bring the story to life. And I think that's something that if you look at scripts as a blueprint and a foundation for what you're building your movie around, because everything kind of needs to be there in the script. And that's something that I think Greta Gerwig does potentially better than any of the other writers on this list. She just really knows how to create a feel of a story world in a script, words on paper, and the way that that's able to be translated largely in part from her directorial eye. It is fantastic. While we're talking about screenwriters, you might be interested in screenwriting, and sometimes it can be hard to find the right screenwriting software. Well, Arc Studio, the sponsor of today's video, says no more complication. Arc Studio has simplified the screenwriting process with a sleek interface and story building features that allow you to effortlessly move between writing and planning your script. It's so well designed that it has been used by the team behind Netflix's Arcane, and David Wayne, a writer-director who you might know from films such as Wet Hot American Summer and Role Models, also uses Arc Studio Pro. Arc Studio Pro includes a lot of really great features, including collaboration. So there's no using multiple different programs to try to collaborate. You can keep it all streamlined within the Arc Studio program. If you subscribe to Arc Studio Pro, you get mobile app versions of this software. Never again will you worry about missing a wave or a spark of inspiration, because you can effortlessly capitalize on that inspiration as soon as you can pull up a device with Arc Studio on it. If you're looking to change your screenwriting process, you can use my affiliate code link, which is going to be available here on the screen, to get a $30 discount off of Arc Studio Pro. Right now, you can get a 7-day free trial of Arc Studio Pro, or just go ahead and use their free version of the software. Thank you again so much to Arc Studio for sponsoring this video. Coming up 4th on my list is going to be Noah Baumbach, which, if you didn't know, Noah Baumbach and Greta Gerwig are actually real life partners. But Noah Baumbach, much like Greta, has such a great style of realistic dialogue, which is sometimes difficult in overly dramatic films. Similar to Greta Gerwig's style, includes a lot of overlapping dialogue. That's something the two of them share stylistically. But in my opinion, Noah Baumbach's is even more real world speech, if you will. His dialogue doesn't necessarily feel as dramatic. His scripts just really allow for the words to kind of speak plainly, and then the rest of the emotion to be picked up on within the film, which once again is why he is such a great writer-director double threat, because he can really bring that vision to life without having to risk someone misinterpreting his script. My favorite Noah Baumbach script by far is Marriage Story. It's a film that really moves me, despite the fact that I have never been through half of the situations that these characters are in, which I think is something that Noah Baumbach just writes these characters that are maybe not relatable, but you find yourself empathizing with them despite them sometimes not being the best human beings. And that's something I think is a testament to what a great writer he is. With Noah Baumbach's scripts, specifically Marriage Story, you see the flaws and faults in both of these characters, as well as potentially some of their redeemable qualities that maybe happened in the past and are not happening in the current story timeline. And he just weaves all of that effortlessly together in his dialogue. And I also feel like his characters, the language that they use it feels lived in, if that makes sense. He has these characters speak in a way as if they already know each other. They speak with a shorthand. They don't need to overly explain everything, which is obviously a sign of bad writing anyways if you're getting exposition dumps. But Noah Baumbach takes that a step further by just making it feel like it's natural and you're just kind of catching bits and pieces of these characters' words and worlds, and I just love it. Coming up third on the list is Damien Chazelle. Now, Damien Chazelle is probably my favorite writer-director pair on this list. Pair, double threat, need a better word for that. He has crafted some of my favorite movies. I've seen his entire filmography, and to me, he knows how to write a story, specifically one focused on ambition and aspiration, and show kind of the duality of chasing after your dreams. Obviously, my favorite of his films is La La Land, but this goes deeper into the script as well. In my opinion, one of Damien Chazelle's strong suits as a writer is his ability to write to the actors that he has in mind. Now, of course, you could argue, again, this is the actor bringing it in. This isn't something responsible for the writer. But I feel like specifically with La La Land, his top choices for the characters of Mia and Sebastian, who he had almost like fan casted himself when he originally wrote this film back in college, were Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone. And so to me, that just speaks to the fact that he plays into the actors' abilities without just making the characters copy pasta of the actors who are playing them. For example, I think of the scene specifically at the summer pool party when Mia and Sebastian confront one another, and Ryan Gosling is delivering his even-toned, his dry humor lines about firefighters and I'll see you in the movie and that sort of thing. And I feel like that is a scene that is such an epitome, like how to write for specific actors, because it would be very easy to, play up the haha funny humor aspect of those lines, but writing to the way that Ryan Gosling would deliver them, or Emma Stone, or anyone, I just think he does an excellent job at that. And he just really knows how to deliver a third act, in my opinion. He just really knows how to make that pack a punch and make you go home with like a little bit of turmoil in your heart, but also like, wow, that was very impactful. I don't think I've walked away from any of his movies and not been impacted by them, but La La Land is my favorite, so it's got to be on the list. In second place, we have Taika Waititi, and a lot of you are probably like, oh, another MCU fan just coming here and talking about her favorite MCU director. And is that a little bit of what I'm doing? Yes, but actually my favorite film from Taika Waititi is Hunt for the Wilderpeople, because I think it's the best showcasing outside of Jojo Rabbit, but it's in a little bit more toned down way, how much this man is a master of comedy and tragedy or drama and putting those two things together, because this is something that is in all of his films, including both the Thor movies that he has written and directed. And I think it is such an impressive feat, because although all of the writers on this list are obviously very skilled at their craft, they know what they're doing, and they could probably write any genre to some degree of success, Taika is the one to me that he can be absurd at the same time that he's being extremely raw and vulnerable. And that's something that, again, it's that balance of that extreme juxtaposition that makes his films and his scripts so incredibly unique. And it's something I think he should deserve a lot of credit for, and I think it's something he did kind of get recognition for with Jojo Rabbit. But I think Hunt for the Wilderpeople is a much more intimate look at how this style can work, and I think some of the humor is even a little bit more outlandish, and since it's less directly satirical, it kind of has a little bit more of a if you get it, you get it, if you don't, you don't type of humor, whereas Jojo Rabbit is the humor's right here and ready for you, whereas I like the subtlety of Hunt for the Wilderpeople a little bit more. The other thing I really love about Taika Waititi's films, even if it's something I don't always appreciate until the second or third watch or until he's explained something, I love Taika Waititi's unapologetic commitment to using Australian and New Zealand specific humor. He's talked a lot about how Ragnarok, a lot of the things that seem kind of absurd for maybe an American audience are things that are very hyper specified references to things in Australian and New Zealand culture, and or the way that they have certain slangs or sayings or inside jokes. Like, that's what I love about his movies, is a lot of them feel like a giant inside joke. And I love that even in a film as as large as Thor and taking over that franchise, he doesn't drop part of what makes him so unique as a writer. And I really, really appreciate that. Even if I can't always understand it or it might not be for everyone, I think that's an aspect of him as a writer that is so incredibly strong. And number one on the list, I bet you've guessed it already, but it's Aaron Sorkin. I love Aaron Sorkin and his writing style so incredibly much. It's the fast-paced humor, everything he's known for, the fast-paced dialogue, the repetition of dialogue, the walk and talks, and just every single little aspect of his writing I love. My favorite aspect of Aaron Sorkin's writing is how he can take a real-life story and fictionalize it and dramatize it in a way that it encapsulates all of what it is while hyper-fixating on an issue. And I think the best film to describe all of this, despite the fact that The Social Network is probably his most famous film of all time, is Steve Jobs, which, yes, again, is my personal bias of how much I love that movie coming in. But the fact that he is able to take three events that are integral to both Steve Jobs' life and to the making and success of Apple as a company, he breaks that into a 3-act play structure, which is where Aaron Sorkin started out, if you didn't know. And that's why I think his films tend to have this really clear-cut, dramatic 3 acts. Aaron Sorkin is able to take this look at an individual, Steve Jobs, who is extremely complex, has a lot of contradictions within his own life, who is an icon in modern American culture, and focus specifically on Apple events and how those relate to his relationship with his daughter, Lisa. And the way that that film was broken up, from the day I saw it, it is still something that I struggle to articulate how brilliant that is, because even though, yes, it's a hyper dramatization, some people claim that nobody talks the way people do in Aaron Sorkin films or anything like that, his writing style emphasizes the high stakes of his characters, and you can see this a lot with the historical figures he chooses to cover, whether it's Molly from Molly's Game, Mark Zuckerberg in The Social Network, or even the coach and team of Moneyball. He capitalizes on the high stakes environment and intensity of these workspaces and or cultures and or historical significance of what these people are working on, and makes you feel that through his writing. Aaron Sorkin is a master of picking subject matter that is complementary to his writing style, and that's something that, you know, someone could be a really great screenwriter, but what makes somebody great, I think, is knowing what you can actually write about that's complementary to the way you write, or vice versa, how to create a style that is complementary to what you actually want to write about, the content and the format. I think that's what makes him my favorite screenwriter. Please let me know in the comments down below your favorite screenwriter. Please also like this video and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss future entertainment, movie, TV related content, because I make it almost daily on this channel and you don't want to miss it. Thank you also again to our sponsor for today's video, Arc Studio, and don't forget to check out my link down below. That's going to get you a $30 discount off of Arc Studio Pro. Thank you all again so much for watching this video. I hope you have an absolutely amazing day or night, and I will see you in my very next video. Bye, y'all.